Hi, and welcome to Learning Pro Intros. I'm Nicole Papiano from Your Instructional Designer, and I'm here today with Rance Greene. Rance, can you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Sure, Nicole. Thanks for having me today. I'm a story designer. And I think a lot of people wonder, what exactly is a story designer? Um, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in Western North Carolina, small town, um, and went to Appalachian State University. And there I got a degree in acting. And from there, I went on to Ohio State University and I got a master's in choreography.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit of a different start for getting into instructional design. Moved to New York City and performed there, and then I started working in a ministry that reached out to inner city youth, and so I worked with inner city youth for 8 years, I suppose, in New York City. Then moved back to North Carolina with this associate pastor position, and then moved to Dallas and kind of landed in this awkward spot where I was like, what am I going to do next? I know I don't have a ministry. I'm not doing acting. So I just got a temporary job in a corporation, a large insurance company. And just like an entry-level position, just to get food on the table. And it was a strange time, and I think of people who are transitioning into this field of instructional design. There can be some strange and awkward times where you feel like you're a little bit alone. You're kind of like trying to search for your voice almost. So I just want to encourage those people, like, stick with it, don't give up, keep going. Eventually, I became full-time at the insurance company, and then this position opened up for a performance consultant. I was like, oh, what is exactly a performance consultant? So when I read the description, I was like, oh. And the guy sitting behind me was like, you need to apply for that job. You'd be really good at it. I'm like, well, I think I could do it, So I applied for it. I went to the interview. Come to find out, they were looking for somebody who could tell a good story. They wanted somebody to oversee their compliance training that had good storytelling skills. And so with my background in theater and directing and all that, I felt like it was a good fit for me. And so I jumped in and discovered this new world of instructional design and just soaked up the instructional design part, watching podcasts like yours, reading books, doing whatever I could to just get that. And I want to encourage those people who are like first coming into this field, like, you can learn that stuff. You can learn instructional design. It is attainable, and you can come into this field. It's a pretty open-armed field and a welcoming field. So it was open-armed for me, and that's how I got into the instructional design world, and that's how I kind of got into the story design aspect of instructional design.
That's so cool. I mean, what a journey, right? So you're going from theater to ministry work to what you think is just your day job to performance consulting to instructional design. That is so cool. How do you think, because I know you said like the theater and the directing and the acting work, that all prepared you for this work you're doing as a story designer, but do you have any specific examples or traits that you feel like really just prepared you to take the leap?
Oh, that's a cool question, Nicole. So yeah, in the theater world, it's all about, so when you go to watch a play, you go to watch a stage, and I like to use this analogy with instructional design as well. When you go there to watch action unfold on the stage. You go there to see a story unfold before your eyes. You're watching it happen. And that sense of tangible action I brought with me into the instructional design world, where what we're looking for in instruction is that we're training people to do things, to take action on things. So the story writing part came very naturally for me. And I did some introspection and some thinking through of how I actually did it to be able to write the book.
Right, yeah,
But
which is right here, by the way, for if you guys are wondering. And it's
yeah,
great. It's fantastic.
so that piece was essentially like trying to explain my process of writing a story for instruction and then using that story to actually train people. So what I was learning from the instructional design world and what I knew as a storyteller, I just was bringing them together. But the action piece from the theater world, I felt that when I started doing workshops on story design, that the weak link for a lot of people was actually constructing a list of observable actions that learners should be able to do as a result of training. A lot of times I think we as humans, just when we get into that training mode, kind of start thinking a little more higher level,
Mhm.
hypothetical, and like what it really needs to happen is you bring it down to earth, like make it real. What are the actions I need to take from this? And stories do that. Stories are concrete. You've got a real person doing real things. And when you put that together with instructional design, asking real people to do real things, you've got like a winner, like a powerful learning experience.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, when you think about all the stories that we do take in and learn from, aside from the training world, I
Yeah,
mean, we've learned so much from the stories we learned as kids, from documentaries, from news stories. It makes so much sense. I mean,
yeah,
totally valuable training um, methods, right?
agreed.
And so I guess the other part is in writing this book, did you discover anything you maybe didn't know about your process? I'm just curious. I know that's totally wasn't on my question list, but I'm just curious now in talking to you, you know.
Yeah. So the process of writing this book, so this is my first big book. And um, it took a year or more to actually sit down and write the book. And yes, absolutely. So when you start examining something in that much detail, you discover gaps. So yeah, I think one of the gaps that I found was just coming up with a methodology for actually writing character descriptions. Because for me, again, that was just like, boom, I had it. I had the name, I had I knew what they were feeling, but being able to guide people, I noticed in some of my workshops that there was a disconnect there
Mm.
sometimes. And so just giving a step-by-step process of like, here's how you can create a very simple but thorough character description. And knowing who that character is helps to know how they're going to act. And I think the same thing with just the plot. How do you write a plot? Especially for training stories. So training stories are a bit different. We're not looking for an ultimate resolution necessarily, but we're bringing learners up through that to that point of conflict and like leaving that with them so they continue to desire to have that resolution before we resolve it for them. And then the training comes in and provides that. But writing that plot itself can be daunting for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people. And so just like being able to say, okay, this is what you just ask a few questions of yourself, where is this taking place? What is happening in the scene? What are people feeling? And helping them walk through that process was one of those gaps for me that the book filled in.
Do you feel like you're a better writer now because you've had to examine your own process?
I do. I feel like I have something to hold myself accountable to now.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I still think you said it took you like a year and a half. I still think that's pretty impressive. I mean, it's very thoughtfully written and it's a long book. I mean,
Thank you.
that's awesome. So, I'm just wondering, I mean, you've kind of dropped a lot of gems along the way, but if there was someone who's thinking about, let's say, pursuing a similar path in terms of story design and instructional design, maybe not, the entire path, is there something you would tell them or one piece of advice that you would give to them?
Yeah, we each have our own journey to this field. So, for those who are kind of going the educational route, like right at the get-go, get out of high school, go to college to be an instructional designer. or going to get your master's in instructional design. I would say my advice to you would be find ways to apply it immediately, like even while you're in school. Get together with an organization, get with your local ATD chapter or a nonprofit organization, find a project that you can work on and start practicing it. Get out of, along with your academic schooling in the craft of instructional design, practice it right away for real people in real places. You don't want to get into a mindset of just pure academia, because you'll struggle to keep pace with business if you're in that world with no exposure to the real world. So to prepare you for that kind of fast-paced business environment, I would say get practice. And for the instructional designer that's coming into this field from another field, like you did from education, Nicole, other people might be coming from the arts, like I did. Others from technology, like Kevin Thorne came from the technology area. I think Kimmy Bean did as well. But there's these other disciplines that you're bringing to instructional design, like bring them in and use those as your strengths to offer to our industry, because we need you, and we need you to be able to teach us what you're really good at outside of instructional design. We need to be a well-rounded field, because there are some three-dimensional problems out there that need some three-dimensional answers. And you're going to help bring those answers to our field as we progress. So that's my 2 pieces of advice.
Those are great pieces of advice. I mean, I think what you just said too is so important to remember, sort of that there's a space for all types in this field. And it's definitely something I've learned along the way. I did not know it when I set out to be an instructional designer.
Yeah, I think sometimes we second guess ourselves, and we think, well, I'm not sure that I can bring this to an instructional design process. And we try to be cookie cutter about it. I remember trying to design e-learning because I was like, well, I've got to be well-rounded. I've got to be able to do everything. And like, I discovered quite quickly that e-learning was really not like, I was really not good at it, which is why I work with developers so much, is, to realize the design. And really it's more fulfilling for me because it's collaborative. And so I work with some brilliant instructional design developers who bring the design to life. So yeah, don't feel like you have to be good at everything, but bring those things that you are good at to the surface and let them just shine, because we need it.
Definitely. So before I let you go, is there anything else you'd want to tell the folks who are watching this right now?
Well, for those who have purchased the book, Instructional Story Design, and have read it, I love hearing stories about how people, thank you, Nicole. I love to hear stories about how people have applied instructional story design to their own work situations. I have a whole chapter that has case studies in it from companies who are telling stories for training. And I thrive on that. I love hearing what those stories are. So if any of your listeners have picked up the book and they're starting to use story design in their own instructional design process, reach out to me, tell me about it, link in with me. I'm always happy to connect with, especially people who are new to the industry. I have a real heart for people who are new to the industry, like you do, Nicole. I just love just staying connected with those people and like listening to their questions and helping them out. So connect. That's my final word.
Awesome. Well, if you'd like to connect with Rance, you can definitely go find his LinkedIn, and that information is also posted in the description box below. And I'm going to pull up his book for like the 800th time, but it really is fantastic. I think, if story design is new to you, especially, it's very easy to pick it up. I mean, Rance has given you great models and easy to follow steps for this process. And it's really powerful and much needed, especially now that there's so much like video out there and things where you have to tell a story quickly. So yeah, go buy his book. And then if you have questions or comments for him, go find him at LinkedIn. Other than that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today, Rance. I know, like we talked about before, you've been super busy. You've been out there with your book. You've been on Beyond promoting your storytelling tour and helping folks learn how to design stories for the video space. And so I'm so grateful that you could be here to, chat with everybody today.
Thank you, Nicole. And thanks everybody who's listening. Story on.
All right. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.